So what about
Look at me for?
what about the Wilfongs?
Oh, that's a horrible story. Well, really, there's not too much known, only what we can read from some of the articles in magazines or, books that are been published in the last few years down in West Virginia. But it seems as though they left over in Germany way back in the early 1700s. And I think the first documentation is they got a ship over there, I don't know how long, a whole group of them. Religious persecution is one of the reasons they came, apparently. And they were about 6 months or a year or something on the boat coming over. A lot of them died and all that. And the name was very different from Wilfong. It was changed after they got here, about 1724, I think. And it seems as though that they settled in Pennsylvania, Virginia, and drifted into West Virginia. The Pendleton County in those days where they came was part of Virginia. That wasn't separated until the Civil War. And they scattered around, and you can read the book, and it's hard to determine who's who our relatives were, and whether it was Henry, and then there was Jacob, and this one and that one, and we really don't know for sure. There's no documentations in the Bible that goes back that far. And my grandfather was John Wilfong, who died in 1924. And his father, from what we can figure out, was named Zebulon. And he had a son, I believe his name is Zebulon, who settled here in Chicago, along with 2 daughters. And the daughters never married, so that ended that. And Zebulon never came back to Franklin. But then there was, out of the John Wilfong, who was my grandfather, came my father, Cam Wilfong, Pendleton Wilfong, and Clifton, who lived in Virginia. And out of that same marriage, not out of that marriage, out of previous marriage came 3 daughters. And Kate, Elizabeth, that was Alice, and Florence. Well, and Kate found her way into Delaware and married there, and they had 1 child named, she married an Ellis that lived in Wilmington, Delaware. And one time I was down there, I was working in the shipyard, and by chance I met the fella. And I don't know, we never did visit anyone or anything, and he died, and Kate died, and the husband was dead then. Now Alice Lambert, which was my father's half-sister, along with Aunt Kate, which I'm telling you about, she lived down on the hill from us in West Virginia. Well, they couldn't support the farm anymore, there was no money. And they moved to Virginia, and out of that clan came a whole bunch of children. But their name was Lambert. No Wolf. And the people who were going to visit in Indiana, that was Florence. Now, how the hell she ever got to Indiana, no one knows. You know, back in them days, in the early 1900s, there was no transportation or anything. You rode a horse from here to there. Well, anyway, they have got a bunch of children down there in Indiana. Some of them have died. And on the way home, we're going to stop and see Mary and Bill. Mary is the daughter, and Bill is the husband. And they have some children. And I think there's 1 brother living down there yet out of St. Florence's family. They're dead. All those 3 children are dead. Alice, Kate, Florence, my father, Pendleton, and my father Cam. Cliff. Now recently we found one of our cousins in outside of Pittsburgh, who was the son of Pendleton.
How do you find somebody that
Well,
We've sent for these
the Book of
books.
Wilfong.
We've been sending for these books.
You have those books at home?
We knew that he lived in West Newton, but he died way back in about 1924, 25, and was buried up there. So, in them days, the communications were very bad. It would take almost a couple of weeks to get a letter from up there down to Franklin, if you got it at all.
Yeah.
And so he was dead probably a couple of months before we knew anything about it. And they got all peed off about that because no one acknowledged the letter or anything. So we lost contact. And so I saw this name in the book, West Newton, Pennsylvania, so I called, and that's him.
2 weeks ago he called.
Really?
Yeah.
I was at the store. When I come home, he told me, he says he located it.
Wow.
A cousin. Out of that book.
Now, who wrote these books?
Well, there's organizations around the country that pick up these names and try to establish the whole history. You know, that's a business.
Yeah.
It's a business.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
We have 2 of those books.
I think that the book, what cost us $40,
Yeah,
something like that. Now you take all the people that's listening there, and there's a whole bunch of Wilfongs in every state in the union almost.
Yeah, 300 or 400.
And you multiply that by 40. Plus all the other gimmicks he'll come at you for. Yeah.
And this other book that we have,
I brought the one book.
it came
with
out
me.
last year, and it's about the history of Pendleton County.
Yeah.
And there's things in there about different people and the Lamberts and everything.
Well, that
And
book
Wilfong.
had the most comprehensive review
Yeah.
of the Wilfongs that I've read in any place. I'm sure that was the history of when they came
That
over
was
way
written by
back
people
in the
down
early
there.
1700s. When the cement, all you know, they spread, they go everywhere.
They came from
And
Germany,
it's-
that first group.